Hey guys, Dov here, back with another underrated unit for Total War Warhammer 2. Stormrunner sent me one with Depth Guard. Yes, indeed, Depth Guard. Not a unit you see too often, and a unit that I personally am a little bit down on, but let's see what he can do with them here. There's two variants. You've got your polearms, and you've got your dual hand weapons. Why don't I like them, first of all? Okay, let's just quickly, before this gets too much into the fun, let's quickly explain the rosters here. We've got bombers, bats, frontline zombos, gunnery mob, Prometheans, including the ROR, dogs out to the side, Norscan dogs, and a huge line of Norscan infantry with berserkers and regular marauders and javelins, and that's basically it, right? So in that context, let's go ahead and zoom in and think, why don't I like Depth Guard? Number one is their low model count. I mean, these guys have 45 models, which is basically like cavalry, right? I kind of, in the past, have called them Blood Knight Marines. That's not technically true necessarily, but I feel like it's kind of appropriate. The halberds obviously have decent melee defense and armor-piercing anti-large. More importantly, they have Frenzy and the Hunger. So the dual hand weapons, that means they have really nice DPS, actually. For how low their model count is, you can see here, with the crabs in tandem, they're going to trade really nicely into these berserkers. Berserkers one-on-one might beat them, actually. I don't know, because berserkers likewise have really high DPS. In fact, that's an interesting comparison. 71 weapon strength versus 51 weapon strength on berserkers. Berserkers, though, with the anti-infantry, go up to 65 weapon strength. Oh no, they have 5 bonus versus infantry, sorry. So yeah, up to 57. So that's pretty good. It's still, I mean, just because they have more models, they have like almost double the models, right? I guess not quite 75, but it's still, they outclass the models pretty heavily there. The armor difference and the hunger will come into play, but if you look at their attack and defense stats, I mean, 57 versus 33, 48 versus 24. Obviously, Depth Guard a little bit higher, but still, they're very comparable in terms of their kind of proportionality. Over here, you can see this unit of Depth Guard trying its best. They are up to 59 kills. Doing a decent job there. These guys in the center are going to start to get a little bit isolated. They have the Prometheans to try and hold them, but the zombies all got chewed through very, very quickly, as you would expect against Norsca. But interestingly enough, Norsca doesn't have great anti-armored infantry tools. The Berserkers certainly can be pressed into that role, although they don't explicitly have armor-piercing damage. The fact, though, that these Depth Guard have Hunger, like I said, is absolutely massive. The fact that they regenerate in melee is probably their biggest redeeming quality in my eyes. They also have really good leadership for undead units, which means it's basically impossible to disintegrate them. And the Hunger, it's 4 healing per second. If we come in and have a look here, if I can get one of these units, there we go, Depth Guard, you can see there, 4 hit points per second, which is not quite half, but close to half, 40% of crumbling damage being negated, basically. So even while they are crumbling, it's not like they are taking that much damage. So I'm not going to say they're fully unbreakable, but they're pretty close to unbreakable. And will just continue to heal themselves even while crumbling. Like this unit, for example, the polearms that are holding out, helping the Admiral here, who Wulfric is going after. The Admiral is suffering himself. He got a polearm Admiral here this time, which I understand against Norsca can be a little bit tough to protect the Pistol Admiral, although the Pistol Admiral does have a damage resistance ability that makes her a little bit tankier, in my opinion. Yeah, melee defense significantly debuffed here from the Hunter of Champions. Sword of Torgald also active, so he's up to 778 weapon strength. Sword of Torgald is really nice while he's on horseback or on foot. That's not so useful on the Chariot or on the Mammoth, but especially with the armor debuff of Hunter of Champions, it synergizes very well with Wulfric on a horse, and especially if you have Lore of Metal, you can overcast a Plague of Rust, get minus 90 armor. It's really, really strong, but there is instead Lore of Fire here, Plague of Fire. Nope, that would be a Nurgle thing, probably. So yeah, unfortunately there's no additional armor debuffs, but if we have a look over at the side here, like this unit of Depth Guard has been crumbling for a while. They're still up to 142 kills and they've been able to sustain in this fight for an amazingly long amount of time. They're just now crumbling, right? So And this unit, even still in the center, like I said, is getting isolated, but they're still fighting. Look at that, and they're still doing decently in terms of their leadership. Got 154 kills and an XP chevron, so definitely the crabs helping to soak some of the damage is a big key factor there in all of these engagements. So I like the use of the crabs and the depth guard kind of in tandem here. But interestingly enough, like the best armored infantry anti-armored infantry tools for Norsca are obviously mammoths, who you tend not to see in this matchup for gun-related reasons, and also, you know, like Famir, same thing. Yeah. I mean, honestly, besides... yeah, I can't really... Lost my train of thought. Anyway... The Berserkers can do okay, like I said, with the Plague of Rust armor debuff, certainly. It would have been a little bit better here, I think. Excuse me. Here, though, the Wulfric gets routed by the Admiral, but likewise, the Admiral's crumbling, and he's at his healing caps. There's not a lot to be done there. He goes ahead and keels over. Ha, get it? Keel. Anyway. Wulfric may come back, but it's going to be up to these Depth Guard here. They're really the only remaining unit besides that. Zombie summon way out over there, the wild zombie summon. So these Depth Guard now and the Lamprey's Revenge together are going to push through. Lamprey's Revenge also, kind of in a similar boat, have some healing to counteract the crumbling, but I believe that the standard regeneration is only 2 healing per second. Oh, that's not them. I want the Lamprey's Revenge. Here we go. No, it's the same. 4 hit points per second. Interesting. I thought it was 2. I think it's actually Corpse Carts and Mortis Engines are 2 hit points per second. Anyway, yeah, you can see these units over here for Norsca are wavering, despite the fact they're fighting a unit that's crumbling, and 2 units are moving in, one that's also wavering and one that's crumbling. So one of the closest games I've ever seen, it has to be said. Fireball gets cast here. It is going to nuke one of the Lamprey's models, and he celebrates there with a axe to the sky. Don't celebrate too quick, though. The Lamprey's Revenge do have shotguns. It's going to try and burn out the Depth Guard, but like I said, they have pretty good leadership for Undead. Even at minus 44 leadership, they're still just crumbling, right? So their leadership stabilizes pretty quickly after that Burning Head. Once they get into combat and start chopping up these javelins. Certainly has to be said that Depth Guard are an awesome-looking unit. Not the biggest fan of the winged helmets, but certainly the face masks look awesome. And the black and gold armor is very, very classy. Is it black? It's kind of like a dark green. Makes sense. That dirty, deep ocean color. Oh, man. Oh, man. The Shaman gets absolutely eaten here. And that is going to be pretty much the game. Is there a few units coming back from route? Oh, yeah, a handful of units coming back from route, but I believe they're going to shatter here once the Shaman goes. No. In fact, the Depth Guard have to run those guys down, and of course, they're going to realize it is hopeless. So yeah, very, very close game. Well played to both players. A big thanks again to Stormrunner for sending these replays in, these undead replays, since I tend not to play them very much because I don't really enjoy them all that often. I mean, I do enjoy some things about Coast, and Tomb Kings as well, and Vampire Counts, like a few things. But mostly I don't play them super often, so appreciate that, definitely. And yeah, Lamprey's Revenge, 123, 112 for the regular Rotting Prometheans, and the Depth Guard also, 202 kills for that one that lasted until the end. Absolute champs, definitely carried the game. And yeah, it's kind of interesting here. Like I said, the monstrous infantry, something, or the monsters in general, are something you tend not to see. And in that specific matchup, like, if you look at the infantry for... so your kind of non-monster options for Norsca, right? For taking out armored infantry. Like I said, armor debuffs plus Marauder Berserkers works great. And everything else is basically a monster. You've got mammoths, Famir, giants, trolls, things like that. They're all going to be vulnerable to mass missiles. I guess you could take chariots, but they also can kind of be bogged down, especially against zombies, because zombies have heavy mass. And they are somewhat vulnerable to missiles as well. Your great weapon infantry is pretty craptacular, to be honest. Marauders with great weapons and champion great weapons are both pretty garbage, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, the hunters actually can be a nice option, and while I understand taking the javelins here, I actually think that the hunters in a lot of cases might be better because they're better against armored infantry, and they deal not quite as much total damage to the monster, but depending on how that bonus versus large is split, I don't remember. I think javelins may be one of the few units that their bonus versus large is primarily armor piercing, which is kind of against its base spread. I'd have to double check that. I don't remember 100%. Maybe I'll leave a pinned comment about it. But these other hunters, regardless, they do 22 armor piercing damage, which is really, really nice. And I guess if that bonus versus large was all anti-large, it would still only be the equal amount of AP damage, right? So against armored units, can be very, very nice if you don't want to take the armor sundering spells. Take those hunters, and likewise, the axe hunters also have a little bit better melee stats in my opinion. It's definitely great to get plus 10 melee attack and plus 4 charge bonus at the cost of 2 melee defense. I think that is a great trade. So these guys will actually fight zombies and kill them pretty efficiently too. It will take some damage in return, but they hit a lot harder than the javelin hunters. I think the throwing axe hunters in most cases right now are better against coast certainly. And yeah, on the flip side, I've talked about this several times already, but just Plague of Rust and armor debuffs in general are fantastic. You could even go, if you want, a Famir, which he did not have, but Famirs are pretty decent. They themselves provide armor sundering, so that is another armor debuff that you can get potentially to stack with Hunter of Champions. And they have Withering as well, which is another armor debuff. Lasts for 40 seconds, which is quite a long time, and the leadership component isn't super pertinent against undead, but can be nice in other situations as well. So, just my final thoughts there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.